All right, welcome everybody to the India Association of North Texas. We are here today talking about the educational webinar, and specifically we're going to be focusing on the youth who are considering college admissions, whether they are related to undergraduate studies or even graduate studies. On our panel today, we have an esteemed set of colleagues that many of you may know actually. We have Michael Trollis, who is the graduate admissions counselor from University of Dallas. Hello, Michael.
Hello.
Hi. We also have with us Suchi Raman. She is a high school as well as an undergrad counselor. She has been in the Dallas area for almost 15 years. And she'll be sharing with us some of the insights that may be very useful to you guys as you guys consider going to college. Welcome, Suchi.
Hi there.
We also have with us Shreyas Churi. He is the ISA president, the Indian Students Association president at the University of Texas at Dallas. I know some of you already know this, but it's actually located in Richardson. Shreyas is also a student out there and is very passionate about Indian culture as well as giving back to the Indian community. And so he's taking a role of the president of the ISA. Welcome, Shreyas.
Thank you, Abhijit. Hello, welcome everyone.
Thanks. We have with us Niharika Kamath. She's a student at the University of Denton and also happens to be one of our board members' daughters, and so glad of her to join us and share with us her views of her college admission process, college life, as well as what you guys should be looking for here. And so we'll talk more about that. Hey, welcome, Niharika.
Hello.
Great. And last but not least, we have Megha Dinapuram. She also is a daughter of one of our board members, and so glad to have you, Megha. She's a student at the University of Texas at Dallas, and obviously she has been very active in the local community, specifically more around lines of culture, dance, and song. So she'll talk to us a little bit about how the college life is and what students can expect. So, hey, welcome, Megha.
Thank you, and thank you so much for having me.
Of course, glad to have you all. And I'd also like to thank all our participants today. Looks like we have quite a bit of folks, and almost like 50 participants and a lot more in the waiting room. So let's quickly get started. I want for each of our panelists to give a brief background about themselves. Want to make sure that we understand where they're coming from. But of course, before we do that, I want to kind of talk a little bit about the disclaimers here. So one thing, as you may already know, we are recording this webinar. So if you're not wanting to be recorded, please hang up right now. Not that we want you should reconsider. But as part of this holding this webinar, you agree to not hold liable any of the organizations or the panelists participating in this webinar. Specifically, the purpose of this webinar is to spread community awareness about various educational opportunities and not to be considered as expert advice. We are definitely not an academic institution, but we do have some academicians on our panels who can help you, drive you towards some of that. And last but not least, much of this information is high level, definitely your individual concerns and questions, which we will try to answer throughout our webinar. But definitely, there's a lot of other places where you can see and learn about academics. So don't just look at this one as one source of information. Do your research. So having said that, I am going to ask Michael to talk a little bit about him, his background, and what his role is at the University of Dallas.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me today.
As you know, as I am a graduate admissions counselor at the Satish and Yasmin Gupta College of Business at University of Dallas. I've been there for a couple of years. I have a few years of admissions experience at another university as well, and almost a decade of mental health counseling experience, as well as a decade of marketing experience. I'm also an MBA student at University of Dallas. You may not have known that. So I know exactly what it takes to get into the program as well as be successful in the program. And I welcome all your questions. I probably have heard almost anything you could possibly think to ask, so please don't hesitate.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Suchi, you want to go next? Give a little bit about your background.
Sure, absolutely. So talking about my role, I'm an independent educational consultant. So I'm not affiliated to any school or any university. So just a disclaimer over there. I'm an certified independent educational consultant. I do help high school kids and middle school kids get into undergrad as well as their journey through their career selections and stuff that way. I've been in Dallas for the last 8 years, and I've been doing this for the last 3 years in Dallas area. So I do help with international students as well as students locally within US. And as part of my role, as Michael said, I have heard all sorts of questions. No question is a stupid question. So even if you feel it's a silly question, please do feel free to open up and ask. We are here to assist you and take you through this journey and help you through your college admissions.
Thank you so much for that, Suchi. Appreciate that. Shreyas, you want to give a brief background about yourself?
Yes, thank you, Abhijit. Hi, everyone. I'm Shreyas Churi, and I come from Mumbai, India. I came here in 2019, fall of 2019, to do my IT management, my graduate study here in UTD. And after 1 year of volunteerism, I was elected as the president of ISA for the academic year. So at ISA, we help transition the incoming students to get settled in the United States, and also to enjoy the Indian culture that they miss after coming here. So and help them whatsoever help they need regarding their curriculum or any problems that arise in day-to-day activities. So I'm here to answer any questions that come across, and yes, as Suji said, ask anything. Nothing is stupid.
Great, of course. Thanks for that, Shreyas. Niharika, we're going to talk more about your college experience and stuff like that, but very briefly, could you tell us, how you got there, what your background is?
Yes, of course. So hello, everyone. My name is Niharika Kamath. Welcome to this seminar. I'm currently a sophomore at the University of North Texas. If you're interested in dance, music, and culture, I'm also part of Indian Student Association and CEO of Udan Dance classes here at the University of North Texas. Moreover, if you're interested in sorority and fraternity, Greek life, I'm currently a vice president and recruitment dean for Delta Kappa Delta Sorority Incorporated. That being said, please feel free to ask any questions. We are here, and thank you.
Thank you, Niharika. And Megha, a brief background about yourself.
So hi, everyone. My name is Megha. I'm currently a senior at the University of Texas at Dallas, and I'm currently applying to med school. So any questions about that, I will try my best to answer. And I'm also involved in the dance circuit and some cultural activities at UTD from the undergrad perspective as well.
Great. Thank you for that. Hey, one thing, Michael, would you like to share with us what specials you got for life members of IANT?
Yes, if you are a life member of IANT, then you will get a 20% discount on tuition to the Satish and Yasmin Gupta College of Business. So that means for any of the master's level programs, instead of your per credit hour being $1,250 per credit hour, it will be $1,000 per credit hour, which cumulatively that saves you almost $10,000 off the degree. So that's a significant discount. Of course, you won't have to pay a application fee either. So
that's great, Michael. And for all the folks who are considering the Satish and Yasmin School of Business, definitely should consider becoming a life member of IANT and avail of this discount. that we had a great partnership with. Hey, Michael, let's start off with you with particularly related to graduate school. Since I know you focus on the graduate school side. What is it that students should be considering? Why should they be going to graduate school?
I'd say a lot of the requirements for employment have changed over the last several years. The employment market has become significantly more competitive, especially in the business world. And a bachelor's degree just isn't as attractive anymore to human resource managers and executives that are looking to hire someone. So if you have an advanced degree, like a graduate degree, a master's degree, that sets you apart a little bit more. It shows that you have expertise maybe in a specific area, especially if you get like a Master of Science in, let's say, analytics. You have a lot more, you're a lot more attractive to an employer that way. The other thing is it also allows you to get a different kind of exposure before you get into the workplace. So if you start your master's a little younger, some people choose to work for a few years before they start, but if you start right after undergrad, then you already know what it takes to be part of a team, you know how to network, skills that are very, very valuable in the workplace, you can actually learn in graduate school.
That's very interesting. I think people see time and again that especially folks on the workplace, we get a lot of resumes and see a lot of folks with undergraduate degrees, no doubt. But to your point, Michael, folks who have done a level of graduate studies and are more focused in an area that definitely sets them apart. So very, very good point. I appreciate you sharing that. Suchi, in your world, could you share a little bit about what you end up seeing in terms of your job and how high school students approach you, and what are the like top 2 questions that they ask all the time?
The top 2 questions actually vary, but in a nutshell, people just ask, what is major? What am I stuck to a particular major if I'm selecting right now? I'm not clear as to what my future would hold. So they have this uncertainty in terms of like, what do they select when they go into the admission process? And the other question that they keep asking is about finances. Like, can I take a loan? Like, how much can I take a loan? Like, and should I, will I be getting an aid in terms of getting into a college or not? So I think the kids nowadays, they come in with these 2. These are the common questions that I oversee. Like, if you're asking the top 2 questions, of course, it's the finance, and in terms of what major they need to select going forward are the questions that I hear about.
No, very good point, because college admissions, unfortunately, sometimes can be a deterrent because of that very fact. It's a high burden for many people to take over. Although we will talk more about what opportunities are there in terms of reducing that burden. Maybe there's some scholarships. We'll talk more about that. Maybe there's avenues for taking government loans. Maybe there's opportunities for doing on-campus jobs. As a matter of fact, why don't we switch over to that? So Shreyas, being at UTD, kind of continuing with the theme of funding your education, right? So could you talk a little bit about some opportunities that students should be considering in terms of on-campus jobs? How do folks navigate that?
Yeah, so when I came here, I was not aware of how to approach and how to go about finding a job. So I had some senior friends which I had in my undergrads. They were here already, and they told me that there is a like a career fair of on-campus jobs, like before the college starts. Like you need to come, like I guess a week before the college starts, so that the jobs get open at that time. And when you reach there, you have a long queue of people with a resume in their hands, and the dining person will, and more specifically for the incoming students, the dining job is the only job is available, because they don't have an SSN at that moment, so they can't work in OIT, like Office of Information Technology, or in any university recreation center. So they first need to get a dining job. So you need to be you need to be courageous that if you have never washed utensils at your place, you should be able to do it here, or
Right.
cut vegetables, cut whatever you or serve people. So you have to come with that mindset. And then once you get a dining job, the second semester gets easy. Like you get a TA, or you get an RA, or you might land up a job in a computer system, as a computer system administrator. So there are opportunities after the first semester, but the first semester you need to come a little early and plan your travel accordingly, so that you get a dining job first, and then you go ahead. So that's what
I did
I
not
did.
know there was a job fair before the college starts as well. So
Yes.
that's very interesting to note. I think I'm sure a lot of parents who are on our webinar today are going to be talking about that to their kids as well. Hey, talk about parents. I know we have Niharika as well as Neha on our panelists, and I just don't want to talk about college for now with you guys, but Niharika, could you talk a little bit about some of the pressures that maybe parents bestow on kids as they start preparing for college? In fact, you should share when would be the right time to start talking about college, because I know that sometimes it starts at 6th, 7th, 8th grade, which I don't know, I cannot comprehend that. Maybe Niharika, you could share some thoughts on that.
Yeah, of course. So basically what happens, there's like a common misconception that our community kind of has involved ourselves in, and it's kind of like you have to start preparation from 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade in order to get into a really good university and get a lot of scholarship. Although for some people that does work, it is recommended that you start kind of college prepping from your sophomore, junior year, because that is kind of when you get a cumulative as to what you're going to be tested on. For example, for ACT, there's a science portion, which includes chemistry, biology, physics as well. And that is again taught sophomore, junior year of college. So in order to kind of get the best information, in order to do well on those exams, it is important that you kind of get a basic knowledge in class. And then of course, whether you plan on going to KD or do Khan Academy, whatever that is, that's where it starts. But coming to college.
Katie is Karen Dillard, is that right?
Pardon?
You mentioned go to KD or Khan Academy. So
KD or
Karen
Khan
Dillard.
Academy. Yes. So personally, I came here pretty late and did not know what KD is and what it stood for, and I would have given too much money from what I was learning. So I decided to do the Khan Academy, and it's very generic. Bi-weekly, you do portions of studies, and then I would take a test on Saturday or Sunday where it shows a cumulative grade of what I earned, and that following week, it gives you kind of what you missed, and you kind of work on that, and it keeps going from there.
Oh, that's nice.
So I definitely.
And when did you start that roughly? What
I
grade?
started sophomore year. I started
Sophomore,
my thing
got it.
sophomore year. And as I mentioned, I'm a kinesiology major with a minor in psychology. So science portion was main. So although I did give my 100% for SAT as well, I tried a little bit harder for the ACT, especially because it had the science portion. And I
Got it.
scored really well, and colleges saw my ACT before my SAT. So it all just
Cool.
depends on what your major is, your capability when it comes to education, and how you want to go about it.
That's good insight. Talking about majors there, I know that Meha, you mentioned about starting to apply for the med school program. So maybe could you build upon a little bit about what Niharika said? If the students are wanting to go to med schools, is it like something that they need to decide in their sophomore year? Is it something that they can hold off to in later years? Could you share a little bit about that, Meha?
Yeah, personally, I always knew I was interested in medicine in high school too. My high school had programs available for us to like experience what it was to be a doctor and stuff like that. So I did a lot of that and I was really interested. And once you're in college, you should really start getting serious about, is med school for me, at least sophomore year, because there's certain prereq classes you have to take to be eligible for medical school. For example, you need 6 hours of biology, 6 hours of chemistry, and in order to fulfill those, you need to have started at least before your sophomore year. So if med school is something you're looking into, definitely know that that's the track you want to be on by sophomore year.
Right, right. No, that's good to know. Good to know. Uh, Michael, we talked a little bit about funding for college. I know that different schools have different avenues of funding. Specifically, depending on whether you're a private college or you're a public school, there's definitely fee different structures are different. So could you kind of start off with describing, what are the different kinds of fee structures at a very broad level, and then more importantly, potentially how you could reduce your quote unquote burden of college fees. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. Most universities will have a per credit hour rate that they charge for tuition. Now, each class is usually a 3 credit hour class, so that per credit hour fee is multiplied by 3. The best way to figure out tuition for a degree is how many credits total for the degree, and you multiply the per credit hour by that rate. For instance, if a MBA is 30 credit hours, you're going to multiply that by the per credit hour tuition rate. Different schools have other fees associated with um, admission besides tuition. Personally, at University of Dallas, although we are a private school, we only have 2 other fees, a small matriculation fee at the beginning and a small graduation fee at the end. When I say small, I mean like $150. So that's really all we try to do fee-wise. Other schools might have other kinds of fees, things like that. But for the most part, the fees are not really the part you're looking to reduce. You're looking to reduce your per credit hour rate. So lots of schools have internal scholarships that they offer students. They're most often merit-based scholarships. So if you have a high GPA, if you took a GMAT or a GRE and you did very well, if you have a lot of interesting work experience, like 5+ years, let's say, things like that, particularly at the graduate level, can make a big difference. I'd say overall, no matter what school you're going to, the biggest difference maker is going to be what your undergraduate GPA was. If you're going for a master's, if you're going for an undergraduate degree, your GPA in high school is going to make a big difference. GPA is the one thing we really can't give you too much wiggle room on. So if you have an exceptional GPA, that catches our attention right away, and we are more likely to then offer you a significant scholarship based upon that. There are also, of course, external scholarships all over the internet that you can apply for as well, to pile on to the scholarships that are offered to you from the university themselves. So external scholarships are a way to get even more off your tuition besides whatever the school might offer you. And of course, Sushi kind of mentioned this a little bit as well. There are loans available at undergraduate and graduate level. The loan amounts go up. The amount you can get goes up each year of education that you are pursuing. So the loan amounts are a little bit higher at the graduate level, of course, because tuitions sometimes are a little bit higher. And people get a little bit scared with loans. They don't necessarily want to take out loans. There also, when you're applying for loans, particularly federal loans, you're applying for grants as well. So grants, of course, as long as you use that for your education, it's money that you don't have to pay back. Loans, you don't have to start paying back until after you actually stop going to school. So just because you have loans that maybe now you can't afford to pay doesn't necessarily mean you're underwater. You'll start making payments on that when you finish school. In most situations, that's when you would start. You won't start when you're in school unless you're really wanting to do that for some reason. I don't know anyone that wants to do that. So yes, loans are a great way to reduce tuition, and you want to keep that in mind when you're looking for a school. You want to make sure the tuition rate is not too high, so that if you are taking out loans, you can then get a return on that investment fairly quickly. So you're getting a decent salary when you finish, you could start paying off your loans, and you're not paying it off for 20 years, like a lot of us do.
That's interesting. I want to come back to Michael is return on investment. So we're going to talk more about that in the later part of the webinar. I do want to continue this track with Suchi a little bit. So of course, Michael talked about loans and scholarships as well, and of course, a plethora of them out there, no doubt. And of course, so like what Michael said, GPA is something that should be, definitely not just respectable, but something that will pop out so that you get noticed in the admissions process. But I also hear, Suchi, that there's other opportunities as well in terms of scholarships. Maybe you are a football player, maybe you're a soccer player, maybe you're a golf player. Uh, Talk a little bit about that. I mean, how can your passion of playing basketball help you in one, the college admissions process, and two, in potentially reducing the fees, the credit hour per credit hour rate that Michael just talked about. So, Suchi, if you would mind sharing your thoughts.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I know Texas is a home for a lot of sports, and you've got a lot of soccer moms and football moms and stuff that way. So very good question. And yes, we do give a lot of credit for sports. So it's not just academics. Yes, GPA does matter, but also if you're really good in a particular sport, then you can apply through NCAA, which is actually the for the sports quota, and you might get into a Division A, B, or a C school. So depending upon which kind of a division you're getting in and which kind of a sport you're getting in, you do get scholarships. So I know UTD is known for chess, which, normally you would not see somebody getting a scholarship for chess when you say, oh, what is chess, right? But UTD is pretty huge in giving scholarships for chess players. If you're looking at private schools, such as SMU, they do not have a football team, though they are Division A, right? So they give a lot of scholarships for basketball, for golf, and any other sports that they would be having. They do have a rugby team as well. So it depends upon which school you're applying for, what kind of a sport you are into, that you would go ahead and get a particular scholarship. As well as the sports scholarship is, it's not that everybody who gets into a particular division would get the same kind of a funding. So, even if you're getting into a Division C school and you're a great player, you might get a higher scholarship than a person who's got into a Division A for the same sport. So it again depends upon how your profile is and how you get in and what you project yourself to for that particular college.
Interesting. So that, you shouldn't just be focusing on academics, but definitely, take courses in playing soccer, or be a linebacker, or be part of the golf team, something along those lines, right?
Yeah, well, the colleges look at an all-round portfolio, right? They just don't want nerds in their college who are just studying, right? They want them to socialize. They want them to be more independent as they're going into the life, right? So it's and that's what they're looking at, their all-round personality for that student. Like, how social are you? What are your extracurricular activities? Are you able to balance your personal life along with your academic life? So that's
so let's take that and ask Shreyas about that, right? I mean, being part of the president of the Indian Student Association at UTD. What do you guys do as ISA for students who are coming in to help them balance what Suchi just said about the social life, the entertainment, the being away from home with academics? So share a little bit of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I was about to comment on that. Like as Suchi mentioned, you need not be a nerd, but you need to be also be all round in all the aspects. So when I came here, I was pretty involved in ISA, and getting involved in ISA helped me balance my academics because I had my way out. Like whenever I was bored of studying, there was some ISA event. Whenever I was getting stuck at something, then another ISA event. So ISA event does not stop. Like we have festivals around the year. Then we have a sports festival that runs around a month and a half. So I personally like cricket a lot. So I played cricket for a month in that tournament, and I was happy at the same time and studying at the same time. So I did not like it is my hobby actually. So I got to pursue that with the help of ISA, and that made me not miss my home country, and also at the same time concentrate on my academics also. So these way, like the events actually make you feel belonged here, and that really makes a difference. And apart from that, a student, when he volunteers for such events, he learns how to handle, how to operate in a real life environment. Like you aspire to become a project manager one day, but if you can't have an approach of a project manager, you can't get that in a book. You need to learn that via going to these live events, handling live people. Like there is crowd. You need to tell them that, you know what, the event is starting. So all these things, event management, project management, this comes along with this volunteerism.
It
So you
becomes
need to
soft
be,
skills that are very necessary for you in
yes.
the workplace. No, very good point. And Megha, I want to talk to you a little bit about what Shreya just mentioned. So, Megha, you mentioned in our conversation earlier that you are also part of the dance academy out there, and specifically, I want to give a shout out to the UTD students who put a fantastic show at IANT's Anand Bazaar event, just a few months ago. I kid you not. I mean, they had fantastic songs and dance that they had put together, and everybody was so excited to see that. I love the enthusiasm. So, Megha, could you talk a little bit about how UTD specifically, lets students enjoy cultural activities when they're on campus?
So the dance culture is actually really big at UTD. In fact, there's a whole dance network across the entire United States. A lot of colleges have competitions they host, and they also have dance teams. And at UTD specifically, there's an a cappella competition. There's a classical dance competition. This is Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi, Kathak, anything like that. There's also a Bollywood fusion competition, and there's two classical teams that do Bharatanatyam and Kuchipudi, and then there's a Bollywood fusion team, Lux. I was on Lux for a year, and I was actually part of the founding exec board. And there's also an all-boys dance team called Raftar. So, and there's also an a cappella team called Dunki. So anything cultural, dance, music related is really big at UTD, and everyone gets involved. In fact, the undergrad Indian Cultural Association holds a Diwali every year, and all the dance teams and a cappella teams perform there too. So it's like a really big community.
Cool, interesting. So I want to kind of go to Niharika, and something that you mentioned, Niharika, in the introduction about being part of some social organization, whether it be some fraternity or sorority or any dance club, like what Megha was just mentioning. Could you tell us a little bit about, and especially for Indian parents, like I'll be very blunt about this, we have no idea what the heck a sorority is or what a fraternity is. So maybe for some of the parents that are on our webinar today, could you share what the heck that is?
Yeah, of course. So when I went to the university, I had no idea that I was gonna join a sorority. It just happened to be that a mutual friend was going to a meeting, and I was like, let's go. And when I sat over there, it kind of made me think, is this something I want? And sorority fraternities are both an organization for life, right? So other cultural events and places like dance groups and stuff like that do hold the same value, but in a sorority or fraternity, it's lifelong, and that's what you sign up for. So basically how it goes, there are three different types of councils. One is the predominantly Caucasian sororities, fraternities, and there's a predominantly African American sororities and fraternities, and then there's multicultural. And that is where my sorority, Delta Kappa Delta Sorority Incorporated, comes in. It is a multicultural sorority where all different cultures are more than welcome. We have sisters who are Filipino, we have Mexicans, we have Indians, so forth. So basically what a sorority is that we all have a common philanthropy, which for us is child abuse awareness and prevention. And throughout the year, throughout the semesters, we kind of hold events and meetings or whatever to provide for the same. People donate money to us, we raise money, whether it's through canes or whatever other element that you want to do it through. And then we raise awareness for the philanthropy. And while that is going on, we promote sisterhood as well and education. So It just depends on what sorority or fraternity you're joining in, but we are also involved with ISA as well. What we do, whenever they have performances, we perform for them because a huge aspect of our sorority is South Asian culture. So that is where all the organizations kind of incorporate, and that is where we kind of get involved with the rest of the community. So all coming from like a Indian family, again, my parents didn't know what it was, even I didn't know what it was, but as we go along, you kind of make friendships forever. You kind of get information on your own philanthropy, because although we know there's child abuse around, we don't know how severe it is. So we kind of get more information on what is going on in the outside world, and that also brings out leadership qualities as far as public speaking goes, time management goes, as Shreya spoke before. It brings, integrity, honesty, and all that stuff is incorporated. And by the time you graduate, you have accumulated all these values to make sure you're ready for your future.
Well, thanks for sharing that, because to be very honest with you, I was like, I'm going to college here, but I never joined a fraternity. But I will tell you that, and this goes back to what Michael was saying, that when you start going to graduate school, you start forming a club of your own, right? I mean, it is like a fraternity or sorority. You start having this clique of friends who essentially become lifelong buddies, and you grow in your careers, and that's what's happened to me. So I'm very happy that I found that. So Michael, I want to talk a little bit about what you mentioned earlier, which is return on investment, right? And that is a very necessary topic of conversation that all of us should be having. End of the day, this money is going out of parents' pockets, the students who are working and paying for college, their pockets. At the end of the day, they are giving money to universities and colleges in order to get a degree, whether it be an undergrad degree or a graduate degree. So talk a little bit about, if you're doing that as an investment, what kind of returns can one expect? Let's say getting out of only high school, mainly high school graduation all free in Texas. But let's say if you get out of college, if you get out of high school, what kind of income can you expect? If you get out of undergrad school, what kind of income can you expect? If you get out of graduate school, what kind of income can you expect? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. If you're coming out of high school, I would keep and that's as far as your education is going to go, I would keep your income expectations on the lower side. You'd more be looking at an hourly wage kind of job. It's not to say that that's the case for everybody. There are plenty of entrepreneurs who have been very successful with minimal education. But for the overwhelming majority, if you only pursue a high school education, you should keep your you should keep your earnings expectations to be on the lower side. You would have trouble making ends meet, most likely. If you're making over $20,000 a year, that's probably on the high side for someone who only has a high school education. If you have a undergrad college education, so you have a bachelor's degree, your expectations should be a little more high. The range can be, depending on position, you can be from the $30,000 range to $60,000 range. It really depends. I know people without a college degree who make over 60 grand a year, but for the most part, that's not normal. You should expect it to be more in the 30, 40, maybe $50,000 range if you get more experience. Once you get to the master's level, it really also depends what your degree is in. Same with undergrad. The more in-demand field you're in, the higher your expectations should be, or the more technical the field you're. For instance, if you have a Master of Science in Cybersecurity, the average nationwide salary is $116,000 per year. That is not the case for most salaries. You might have a PhD in education, but you're a teacher, so your salary might be, or you might be a high school principal. Your salary might be lower. But as a general rule, more education usually translates into higher salaries, especially if you're looking at business fields, more technical fields. Medical fields may not always pay as high as they used to, but they're still lucrative careers.
Right.
Law, of course, things like that.
And that's very useful to know. And you talked a little about PhDs as well, and that becomes super specialized, right? So I mean, that's something that, you know, if you are doing some breakthrough innovations, which potentially, you know, can yield to very, very high compensation as well and opportunities. So you know, but again, it's highly specialized.
Right. I'd say the hardest degree to get a return on your investment is a doctorate. If you get a PhD, you're usually looking at academia, and it's going to take a while before you get a return on your investment. If you happen to get a doctorate, let's say in business, and you're doing high-level consulting, you probably have already earned a significant income before you pursued that doctorate to begin with. So then maybe you'll get a return on your investment, but that's not always your motivation when you're pursuing a doctorate.
Right, right. So Suchi, I want to talk a little about what Michael just said about motivation, right? So motivation is one which essentially is about earning money to get a lifestyle that maybe our parents have taught us or have made us used to. But the other motivation is just your passion, right? And sometimes those motivations don't necessarily jive together, right? So Suchi, could you talk a little bit about how would you advise the students that come to you in terms of balancing, you know, the fact that, hey, you still need to earn money in order to have a nice lifestyle and enjoy life as well by the work that you're doing. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Very interesting and a very good question, right? So a lot of students, as I mentioned, right, they ask me, what major do I take? Like, do I get into an IT because I heard that, you know, it pays a lot, but then I don't like coding. So then why do you choose IT just for money, right? So what I do is I do testing, a Myers-Briggs behavioral testing for all my clients who come in to go ahead and find out what that balance is, right? Like, what is their deep desire and what is the best career for that particular student? And then I would have an open conversation with them to say, hey, I know you want to pursue X, but then, you know, as per the results of the testing, it shows something totally different. So can we actually, you know, agree on something that's between? If you don't want to, you know, select what your results are, can we actually come to a particular understanding of an equilibrium, which would be good for you? Because we don't want to go, and something that I tell all my students and my clients is that, you know, if you want to just go ahead and make money and just go get into a rat race, and because everybody is choosing a particular subject, everybody wants to get into management, everybody wants an MBA degree because, you know, they earn more. Yes, you can join the rat race. However, you are not going to be happy with yourself, right? At some point, you're going to be totally dissatisfied with where you are, and you're going to be questioning, what am I doing? You're going to lose yourself in this rat race. That's why I actually go ahead and tell them, like, take a moment and decide, like, you know, do you really want to get a rat race, or do you want to have a happy life wherein you want to balance yourself? You need to have time for yourself as well as make money, right? So if you have a passion of just going and flipping burgers, that's not where I'm going to go ahead and ask you to go ahead and do that. But yes, if you're good at culinary skills and, you know, you can be a top Ramsay or something, go for that as your main career, right? So it's actually to figure out where you are with your passion as well as what you want to do. So it's a balance that you need to work with the students, try to understand where they are, what their passion is, and what their actual you know, capabilities are. You might have a passion to sing, but if you're not a good singer, you don't have a voice, you know, that's not what I would suggest them to pursue with. You know, you can have that as your side hobby, but get to where you want to be in life.
Interesting. Yeah, somebody told me that I have a good radio voice. I don't know what that really meant, but no, but that's interesting. And you know, I see this challenge quite a bit, is that in this world of social media, we get to see a whole bunch of entrepreneurs, right? And not necessarily all of them have gone to college and they're really quote unquote hit, big time and are raking in the dollars just by having the number of followers, right? So I want to kind of take that to maybe Niharika and ask her, what's this craze about? I mean, do I need to know what everybody's doing on Snapchat or whatever the latest social media platform is today? Because I heard Facebook's going away now. Is that right? I don't know.
So Facebook is kind of like history now, although, older generations, well, whoever's past 30 right now is kind of old for us. So they kind of use
I'm not going to
Facebook.
take offense, by the way. Just
Yeah, no offense at all, no offense at all, but it's kind of it's been shown that older generations are using Facebook, and if you do see someone like my age or someone a little older like 21, 22, they are on Facebook because of course their families are on Facebook, and I feel like Facebook will always be a thing because it's going to be passed down to generation if you really look at it. But moreover, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok has been are like the three top social media platforms currently. And as you mentioned, there are a lot of new entrepreneurs kind of coming up and coming on TikTok as well. And there are a lot of businesses, small businesses, such as like keychains, shirts, and et cetera, like up and coming. And they are showing that, they are succeeding a lot, making six figures right off the bat just from TikTok and the viewers and like the audience that they are portraying or putting themselves out there for. But they also kind of mentioned that they are investing in stocks, and it's right about like when you can pull stocks, invest in it, and stuff like that. So it all kind of it has a background figure to it as to what they are doing in order to get the six figures. But I would definitely agree with Miss Raman right here that it's all about your passion and your motivation and your drive towards it. Yes, maybe you're giving everything on TikTok right now, but how long is TikTok going to be available for? A year or two, what after that, right? And if they are passionate with the career path that they're choosing, they're more likely to succeed because that is something that they want and they're willing to work for. But at the end of the day, it's not about a platform that has just come maybe 6 months ago and it's up and coming currently, but you never know what it pertains to in a couple years. So I would definitely suggest going based off your passion, your motivation, and like things that you like and you derive yourself from, something that you wake up in the morning and like, I would love to do this for the rest of my life, rather than just doing it for a year and then I'm like, I want to go to IT now. So
no, that's interesting. I want to take that and ask Megha about this. Megha, you mentioned that you were passionate about sciences from the very beginning, and that's kind of what drove you to where you are today. And I want you to kind of share a little bit of your journey in terms of what got you to be passionate about this and what you're doing today in terms of fulfilling that passion.
So I went to Frisco ISD. So we have this kind of, it's called like a career and technology center that there's special classes that are offered there. So one of the classes that was offered there was medical microbiology. So I took that class my junior year of high school, and it was really interesting. And it like made me think about my future and stuff like that. And then my senior year, if anyone goes to Frisco high schools, you know about a program called Independent Study and Mentorship. So I applied for that program and I got in, and I got to shadow a doctor at UT Southwestern. And through that, I was able to kind of see like what she does and how her day-to-day life looks like. She's a neurosurgeon and she has like clinic hours and operation theater hours. So I got to see both of them. And then through that, in college, through various classes and stuff like that, I shadowed a neurologist at a sleep clinic, a nephrologist, which is a kidney doctor. And I think one thing that's really important if you are interested in medicine is to make sure you expose yourself to different types of medicine and learning about how different doctors work in their day-to-day lives, because everything is different. And it's really easy to become disillusioned and lose your passion, especially through like some really hard science classes that you have to take. You may just feel like this isn't for me, this isn't what I want to do. But if it is something you truly want to do, it's something you'll push through, and you'll take those hard classes and you'll try your hardest. But I think my one tip, if I could say anything to any incoming college student that's considering pre-med, is to practice good study habits and to get clinical experience, whether this be like scribing, which is a job also, so you can get paid for that, work as a farm tech, so you'd be working in a pharmacy, or just simply shadow a doctor, because getting that experience and being in a doctor's office is something that's like, you can't replicate that through books or through theory or anything like that. Having practical experience is what kept me motivated.
So sounds like definitely you need to find avenues where you can learn more about your passion. You mentioned, pharmacy. You mentioned having a mentor who helped you through understanding, what life as a doctor would be, and that actually is a very good thing, because it almost tells you, is that what I want to do? Because what books may tell you is one thing, but you may start to see different experiences that people are having, and then you may want to relate to that. So it's a very good thing that you mentioned, which is, you take your passion, learn more about it, find opportunities that you can actually engage in, and more importantly, validate if that indeed is what you want to do. I want to go over a little bit to on the STEM side of the house. So Shreyas, could you share a little bit about your background in terms of what degree you are pursuing, and share a little bit about your journey as well?
Yeah, thank you, Abhijit. So primarily when I was growing up, I was never attracted to technology, to be honest. Okay, so all that I had in my mind was cricket, because I wanted to become a cricketer. That was I was pursuing. I played for my college team, my school team, my bachelor degree team. But then somewhere I was lacking the skills. Like I feel that I didn't go the distance because I don't have the courage. But somehow it crept into my mind that I can't be a cricketer, and now I have to do something else. So one day, like I was like, something from my passion can take me somewhere else. So I was a leader in my team. I was a captain for my almost all the teams I played for. So I told her, let's do something in leadership. So when I took up in 2013, I was still wanting to be a cricketer, and I took up a degree in computer science, because that was a boom that time. Okay, like I was Niharika said, like, you know what, people just go in IT, and I was one of them. I to be honest. And when I went there, I was like, I'm not enjoying this. Okay, let's find something that how cricket is to me, something that should be there in my life to push me to the limits. So the second thing which I was really passionate about was helping others and change and making a difference in lives of others. So that's what inspired me to do something in management side, where you actually are the decision maker, and where you actually make a difference in somebody's life. So when I graduated, when I undergraduated in my bachelor's degree, I took up a job for 2 years, and I was finding myself. And then I saw a master's program which was IT and management. So I had the IT background for 4 years, and now I can learn management, where I can pursue a passion of helping others via becoming a manager, maybe. And then I never thought I'd become a president of ISA, but when I came here, I saw that, okay, this is also a good opportunity to do something which I really like about. And that's when I started to do all these things. So I started enjoying. Well, like I was enjoying cricket, I started enjoying helping others, I started enjoying leadership, I started enjoying IT management, and how IT can be served by via being a manager. And that's how I actually landed up here.
That's interesting. You kind of, not saying you left your passion, but you didn't want
Yes.
to make that as a career. But then you pivoted to find something that you wanted to do, which is help people out. And through that avenue, you effectively found other things that, oh, that's interesting. Very good, very good. And Niharika, you want to add a little bit to what maybe Shreyas and Megha said?
Yeah, definitely. So going a little back to what Megha said, Frisco ISD and Plano ISD offers something called like CTE Center. And it's basically another avenue where you can learn more about the degree that you're trying to pursue, and it gives you a more hands-on experience. For example, if you're a business major, there are a lot of business marketing and finance aspect of it where you can take higher level classes and kind of learn more about it. Same with the medical field. If you're trying to be a veterinarian or even physical therapist or med student, there are a lot of different classes that you can take in order to kind of learn more in depth of the major that you're trying to pursue and before you actually pursue that. And that being said, you know, try to shadow or like get mentorship from someone who already has an experience in that field, and that is unmatched. Because I personally shadowed a doctor at the Baylor and Scott hospital, and that was an experience that I, you know, was unmatched. And that is, he was a cardiologist, and that is something that I was looking forward to. But when I saw all the incisions and stuff, I was like, no, 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 this is not something that I want. It kind of gives you more, it gives you a clear aspect of what you're trying to become. And like Shreya said, you know, it's always good to find that happy middle of what your passion is and what you want to do in the future. And it can also have a small aspect of money. At the end of the day, money does matter. So it's good to kind of see, not to lose your passion. Like Shreya said, you know, he still loves cricket. He didn't give it up, but it was kind of like, how do I kind of integrate what I want and my passion to become something in the future? So it all kind of depends on, you know, what you want to do and if there is a happy middle. And if not, you know, never give up your dreams of what you always wanted to do just for the money, right? So that's that.
No, no, thanks for sharing that. Michael, I want to come back to a little bit about STEM education. I know the Satish and Yasmin School of Business is more of a business school, but could you talk a little bit about STEM education? I mean, for some folks who are new, could you also describe what STEM stands for?
Yes. And the Satish and Yasmin Gupta College of Business does have STEM degrees as well. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So if you are involved in a degree like that, those are the kinds of subjects that you will find in a STEM degree. That also has impact, particularly for international students. If someone is coming here on a visa, a student visa, to pursue a STEM degree, normally a student visa, you cannot work. However, if you're pursuing a STEM degree, you're allowed to pursue paid internships for up to 24 months. So that makes a huge difference for an international student. But STEM degree also, they tend to be a lot more in demand nowadays. They're a lot more specialized. For instance, we have cybersecurity, we have business analytics, we have information technology management, like Shreyesh mentioned. We have financial analytics now as a STEM degree as well. Cyber intelligence, did I say cybersecurity? Those are all STEM degrees that are still considered business realms, but because they have more of the science, technology, engineering, or mathematics requirements to them, they are still a lot more specialized. There's a little bit of, there might be a little bit of management or business associated with those degrees, of course, as well, but they are more the scientific or technical degrees.
So Suchi, how should students in high school prepare for STEM education? I mean, we talked a little bit about passion before. I know many of the Indian parents are saying, you got to become a doctor or you got to become an engineer, one of those. So could you talk a little bit about, you know, how one should be preparing for STEM education?
Yeah, the Indian mentality is either an engineer or a doctor, right? So that's so true. But STEM is not just an engineer or a doctor. So just to make that clear, like people have this mentality like STEM is just that. No, it's not. It is more than that. It's all inclusive of your passion, right? Science is kind of like, how do I say? It changes every day, right? Science changes every day, technology changes every day. So what was new yesterday is already like, wiped out, and there's something totally new, like robotics, if you're looking at data analysis and stuff that way. So there's so many things that are changing. So your high school subjects also change according to what's there, what's the need in it. So when it comes to STEM program as to what is right or what is wrong, there are, I think we have a catalog, like, as what, Megha and Niharika actually mentioned, right? Each ISD, not just Plano ISD or Frisco ISD, but all ISDs do have a catalog of all the subjects that are available under that. There would be certain that are more popular because that's what, most of the students are taking in that particular school or in that particular area. So, they are more highlighted or on the top of it, but you do have other subjects that are still offered by the ISDs. So you actually can go ahead and look at that particular catalog and see if something is good for you and if you want to take. It doesn't matter if you're just one student who wants to take that particular subject in that catalog. If you go ahead and request for that, the ISD would go ahead and provide that particular education for you. If you have to be taken to a different school where that's been actually provided or an online class, ISDs always go ahead and give that preference for it. So again, how do I select? Like in high school, you have two categories, STEM or arts, right? So that's all that is encompassed in, like you either take STEM or you take arts. People who are mostly in arts are people who are more creative, and they've been creative since, since a long time. They know that that's what their passion is, into creativity, getting into that. And the rest of the crowd, like 80% of the crowd, does normally get into the STEM. So that's how they actually select the STEM. And then post STEM, they do get into a variety of majors. So you have lawyers who have STEM backgrounds. You have, economists who have STEM background and stuff that way. So it's just not engineering or the doctorate degree that you have with the STEM background.
Okay. So guys, I know we're almost on this for an hour, so I do want to make sure that the folks who are attending also have an opportunity to ask questions. If you have a question, please submit that in the chat. Definitely, I'd love for your questions to get answered. I know there are a whole bunch of folks who have already submitted questions before, so I'm going to kind of go through some of them. But prior to speaking about those questions, I'd like to bring on board Rajiv Kamath. He is one of our executive board members. He has been with the India Association of North Texas for quite a few years and volunteering selflessly to the Indian community. I consider him as a personal friend, not just because of the fact that he's on the India Association board, but just purely because of his selflessness. He's been great for the Indian community, helping out with the India Association's visa camps specifically. And of course, on the executive board, he holds the role of a treasurer. So Rajiv, do you want to come online and talk a little bit about what India Association does? Also talk a little bit about the various memberships that we have, and of course, the discounts that we get with UD when you become a life member.
Yeah, thanks, Abhijit, for the kind words that you mentioned about me. But it's my passion, like how Suchi and everybody was saying, that you always need to follow your passion. And if you're very clear on that particular path, I think so. Just achieving the goal should not be an issue. So that I think so. All the panelists have proved it on what you say. That's in the same manner. I would say that IANT also has been doing it bit for the Indian community from 1962 when it was established, and they have always been there to serve the cultural and educational needs of the North Texas Indian community. Being an apex body for all the associations here in North Texas, they have done a wonderful job, and I can say that India Association has always been at the forefront on whenever any activity are required by any Indians in this part of town, right from whether it is any counselor camps where India Association brings the counselor camp to Dallas every used to bring them every third Saturday of the month, but now it has been stopped due to the COVID issue, this pandemic that's going on. But I think so in 2021, we should start doing it very fast. And of course, it's always done with the group of the board of directors, the trustees, and the volunteers who get involved. It's a big team. for everybody to know that it's a big team and every person contributes to making it success. But then, of course, uh, with the leader as a president, always what you say, they take them along in that same sense. So thanks to Abhijit and the board of trustees for getting us involved in this activity. And most importantly, I would like to also say that this year has been very, what you call challenging for all of us. We had been a lot of challenges at the beginning when the COVID hit, and how are we going to work on it? But the passion and the enthusiasm of the Indian community over here showed us the pathway on how we can actually work on it. And that's where we started on virtual programs, whether it was Anand Bazaar or some of these webinars that we are holding. We have been able to make that a success with everybody's contribution as such. And most importantly, I would also like to say that our sponsors, who have always been our backbone, because even in this sort of an pandemic sort of situations, our sponsors who have been our backbone have always stood by us and stood by what we have been doing. And as an INT, as an institution, believing in what we did or do or for the community, and they have supported us. I would like to, with your permission, Vijit, I would like to really thank all the sponsors. Can I do that?
Of course, please.
Yeah, so I would like to start with, we had Heritage Land Bank, we had Discount Power, and we had New York Life Insurance Company, who are there as a corporate sponsors for us. We have Paul and Geeta Pandian, who have been our gold sponsors. We have Sunil Maini, CPA, and Encore Enterprises, who have been our silver sponsors. And along with that, we have Aluwalia Law Offices, Skypass Travels, and law offices of Lal Verghese, who have been our supporting sponsors. Now, on another aspect on which Abhijit touched up was on the membership. We have three tiers of membership that we have. One is with regarding to the annual membership that we give of, it is around $40 per year that we have from Jan to December. We have a 5-year membership, which is there. uh, we have a 5-year membership having costing $150 as that, and we have a lifetime members where we have a fee of $500. That's for the lifetime for the member and its whole family. And like how Michael also said, we have a tie-up with the University of Dallas, where they have been always been supportive of the life members and the Indian community over here, whereby they provide discounted rates for the tuitions for the members who are the life members of IANT. So, and how he said it start varies from 20% and above. And they have always been there. And Michael, Rebecca, and Shri have been like very supportive for IANT. And I would really look forward to everybody being participating and try to be life members, as it helps the community as such, and it also helps personally everyone. So we may be coming out with something down the line for this year too, so which we will keep you updated through our newsletters and through our website. Thanks, Abhijit, for giving the time to
Of course.
go through this.
No, thanks for that overview, and you're absolutely right, Rajiv, that sponsors are the folks who kind of keep us afloat, and a variety of volunteers as yourself, and a whole bunch of others who help us keep this organization going. So thank you, all of you guys, for making this thing happen. I want to get into the questions that are being asked by our panelists. So right off the bat, there's a question from Renuga, and it says, to get into pre-med, what kind of prep one needs to do in high school, both academic and non-academic? Maybe I see that Megha might be the right person to answer that. Megha, could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in high school, there's really not much you can do. A lot of doctor's offices won't even let high schoolers shadow. unless it's through some specific program, you should really look into volunteering. This can fulfill your minimum 100-hour requirement to graduate, and you can also put that on your resume when you're applying for undergrad programs, because volunteerism looks really good. So personally, I volunteered at Texas Scottish Rite, but Baylor has really good volunteer programs, and I think Methodist does too. So I think you should look into volunteer programs as a high schooler. And then if your school does have some program in place for you to shadow doctors, you should definitely do that. And also use your network. If you have family friends that are doctors, or you know someone who knows someone and they're okay with you shadowing, typically private practices, so like small clinics, if you can call them up and ask them, then usually doctors are very open and willing to let students shadow, because they want to pass on the knowledge, and they know the struggle of going through searching for internships and stuff like that. So definitely like look into private practices if you want to shadow, and volunteering at bigger hospitals like Baylor, Methodist, and Scottish Rite.
Cool, cool. Thanks for that, Megha. Prashanti asks the question, my daughter's a junior this year and she couldn't do any internships in the summer. Does it affect her undergraduate admissions? What else can she do as a substitute for internship? Any ideas or suggestions? Maybe Niharika, you can answer that.
Yeah, definitely. So for internships, as Megha just said, internships are optional, but it is recommended. Colleges do want to see that you are putting in that extra effort in order to succeed in the path that you're choosing. So if she could not do any internships, that's totally fine. Upcoming senior year, or even kind of that transition between her graduation from high school to the university, that summer she can try to reach out to some private clinics or anything like that, or whatever major she is, she can look into all that and get those internships in. It's never too late. It's not going to affect too much of the application, as it is not required, but it always is a bonus to see kind of like, oh, she is putting in that much effort. And I would also like to answer the previous question. Some things that you can do non-academically is get involved in cultural aspects, whether it's for IANT or any other school events or organizations that you might have at your high school, or even if they get accepted into a college, they can also start getting involved in those aspects as well. If they are interested in sports, they can of course get involved in that and try to pursue either sports or arts or theater or instruments or something like that, and kind of further their knowledge with that. Also, that being said, try to indulge yourself more in volunteer services for IANT. There are other organizations as well, such as VIBHA, XYZ. You know, there are multiple organizations that you can work for, get volunteer hours, and it can be for a variety of volunteer opportunities. It can be in your major, it can be for cultural, it can be something that you're passionate about. I would definitely ask if they can get some leadership roles, whether it's just for like a small club in your community or otherwise. So those are some options that you can look into that will kind of get your resume before you go to college spick and span.
Also adding on to that, something else is if you can get a job, I would say at least working a year or a couple of months is really good too, because you can build your background on that. You have something to speak about if your undergrad college does interviews for whatever reason for a scholarship or anything like that. It's good to have something to speak on other than, yeah, I was in high school. So I worked at a tutoring center, so that's something that tutoring places like Kumon, Gideon, anything like that, they're always looking for people at some location. So even if you do have 3 months of experience, you can say, oh, I worked at Kumon and I learned X, Y, and Z, or I learned leadership, or I learned how to time management, something that you can show that you grew and you learned something. Any experience like that is always beneficial as well.
So I think the punchline there is get your butt out of bed, don't spend time by the pool, go out and learn some soft skills, get something on your resume. It kind of helps you learn if that's what you want to pursue, if it's what you don't want to pursue. And definitely none of that learning goes waste, because graduate and undergraduate college counselors look at that, seeing, okay, what is that you're passionate about, and effectively see if you are the right student for the program. So in fact, related to that, this might be a question for you, Michael. Is the Gupta College of Business AACSB accredited, and is it nationally ranked? Could you talk a little about University of Dallas?
Yes, University of Dallas, Satish Yasmin Gupta College of Business is AACSB accredited, and it's also nationally ranked. AACSB accreditation is the premier accreditation when you're looking for a business school. One of the reasons why you want an AACSB accredited school is an AACSB accredited business school has to maintain certain levels of quality that are assessed every single year, and every single year they have new goals they have to meet. Most of those goals are centered on being future focused, being thinking where the business careers are going, so that the education still remains current. It's not just, you're not learning marketing from 50 years ago when marketing first started. You're learning the way marketing is going in the future as well. Particularly at University of Dallas, they're practitioner degrees, so the information you're learning is not just theoretical, you're learning how to apply the knowledge as well. So when you're seeking particularly a graduate school, it's very helpful to know that you're not just learning something theoretical and then you have to learn how to apply it yourself. You're learning how to apply it while you're in school, and you can walk out the door and already know how to do the career that you're seeking. Our rankings are within the top 50 overall. Certain of our degrees are even higher. Our cybersecurity on some rankings is in the top 5 nationwide, #1 in Dallas. It is a National Academic Excellence School recognized by the NSA and the Department of Homeland Security. So we're very proud of our cybersecurity program, of course, but our other programs are also well ranked, often within the top 20, 10, depending on the ranking.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that, Michael. There's another question coming from Tara. How important will SAT be in the next few years based on what UCCA system decided for admission? So maybe Suchi, you could take that.
Yeah, sure. So that's a good question, Tara. So I know everybody is going in a different route, and I know this question about SAT keeps coming up. So far.
So I'm sorry to interrupt there. What does UCCA stand for? Help us understand that.
So UCCA is actually the University of California. They are going for the text, the, what do we say, test optional courses.
Okay.
So that is what it is. It is actually linked with that. So I know if you're going for test optional, then you don't need to go for SAT or ACT moving forward, because everything would be on that. But again, the way that we are, it is still ways ahead. Not every state has gone test optional at this point, and not all universities have opted for it. It's very few universities that have gone for that test optional. So SAT is still in major look for, at least for the next couple of years. I would say for the next 3 to 4 years, SAT would still be more preferable. ACT and SAT both would be preferable. But the way that the colleges and the universities would go ahead and take this test optional would then go ahead and define if SAT would be a future or not. But at this point, this is what this is what we've been seeing. And that is what we've been hearing as well from the college boards and the national college boards at this point.
Got it. Shreyas, this question may be appropriate for you, and this is actually across the board a little bit. So, talk a little bit about when should one start preparing for, GREs or SATs and ACT exams. Talk about it from a timing perspective. So if I'm going to be a student, incoming student, say for fall of 2021. So when should I start preparing for GREs or SATs or ACTs, of course, graduate and undergraduate? So could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I came as an international student for the graduate studies, and I had to give my GRE. So I came in for fall 2019. So I started studying for GRE, I guess 9 to 10 months back, because the admission process is so lengthy that you need to have your GRE scores for application for the various universities. So I actually gave my GRE in the month of October 2018, and I started preparing for that 3 months prior to that. So I guess around July I started preparing for GRE, and in 3 months time I gave GRE, and then I guess after a month I gave TOEFL. So at start of October I gave GRE, end of October I gave TOEFL, and as soon as I had my scores ready, all the university applications started to come out in the month of November or the start of December, and that gave me a wide base of university to apply for. So I guess the same case would be for SAT or ACT. I don't have much knowledge about that. Maybe Niharika or Megha or Suchi or even Michael can talk about that. But for GRE, you need to be prepared, prepared 10 months prior to when you are applying for our intake.
So sounds like you gave the exam about a year before you want to start college, and 10 months before that is when you actually started studying
You
for it.
start preparing 10 months before, and like I guess 6 to 7 months before, you need to have your scores in your hands.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Uh, Suchi, maybe this next one's for you. What is the difference between EFC and AFC? These are all acronyms that I have no idea what they are.
So that is actually a good question. So if people are actually applying for FAFSA, they would actually be hearing those terms. And FAFSA, for people who don't know FAFSA is the federal aid, uh, for any kind of a federal grant or federal aid, everybody, all the students would be going through the FAFSA. So it's not applicable for international students. It is applicable for, a US citizen or a permanent resident over here, the FAFSA. So as part of that, we would be hearing EFC, which is your estimated financial contribution. So that is EFC. So when you apply for FAFSA, people would then, the colleges, based on your W-2, based on your tax and what information you're submitting within that FAFSA application, they would actually go ahead. It's actually a calculated field that would say, this is your estimated family contribution. So this is what the colleges are expecting you to contribute towards your child's education. However, AFC is your affordable family contribution, right? So it's your financial contribution based on your family. So yes, you might be earning high, but then there might be something that's happening currently in your particular family background, due to which you may not be able to contribute what your EFC is. So it's always very, efficient for people to know what your AFC is. So how much can I personally contribute based on whatever is happening in my family, right? Do my parents back in India need some funding? Do I need to send some money for them so I don't have something? Or has something thanks to the pandemic, something has happened that, I need to spend money for a medical contribution, that would not reflect in your, the W-2 that you submitted, because the W-2 that you submitted is for the prior year. It's not for the current year that you're submitting. So there's a lot of discrepancy in that. So it's very useful for you to know what your family contribution is versus what is the college's estimating that you would be able to contribute. So then you can negotiate with the financial advisor in that college where you've got the admission for, saying, hey, this is where I am. This is what you have given me as a scholarship. This is my default, or the black hole that I cannot achieve. So can you please assist me? Can they be, can I get more scholarships in it? Or you actually turn to a banker or to a loan to go ahead and fund for that particular portion that's missing, right? So that's how we would look at it. So there are different venues, either go for external scholarships, merit scholarships, loans that you would have to take to fill in that gap between your AFC and the EFC that a particular student has to go ahead and submit.
So Tara has a follow-up on what you just described, and we want to switch topics since we were just talking about this, and which is, you already talked a little about the financial aid portion of it, but specifically, could you talk a little about the timings and what requirements are there for maybe the NCAA and other sources of financial aid that one may apply for?
Yeah, so financial aids, basically, I think scholarships for each universities are different. The earlier you apply, the better scholarships that you would get. So if you're applying for any kind of a financial grant or something, please apply prior to November 15th, I would say. Even if you're applying in October, that is great. The earlier, the better, because the universities would know what their portion of scholarship budgets that they have and how much they can go ahead and provide to a student. So your chances of getting a higher financial aid is earlier on, rather than if you're going to be saying, okay, the deadline to submit the application is December 31st. So 11:59, I'm going to submit something. Yes, you might get a scholarship, but it may not be beneficial for you. So if you want to take full benefit of the financial aids that you need, please go ahead and submit the financial applications earlier on to get that particular aid. And to talk about NCAA or your sports quota, right? So for sports, basically, you don't need to be a great student with a great GPA. So they look at anybody, even having a 2.0 GPA would get a kind of a good scholarship for sports. Provided, it's not that you have a 2.0 GPA and you're also just an extra in a particular sports team. No, that's not going to work. So if you are actually really good, your coaches at your high school can go ahead and say, hey, I can vouch for this person. Please come and watch this particular game. Or if it's tennis, what is your UTR rating? What is your USTA ranking for it? So it depends upon where you are. So if you can have a lower GPA, but if you're really good at that particular sport, you would get a higher kind of a scholarship for that. Again, the timing for it for sports, you do need to apply through the NCAA kind of, their website and stuff. That way it's totally different, because the sports scholarships are totally different from your school or your academical scholarship. So, the application process is a little different than that.
So Michael, related to what Suchi was saying, this next question kind of goes almost hand in hand. Is, of course, you talked earlier, Michael, about GPA and academics being really high up there in terms of considering. But at the same time, we hear about students being well-rounded as well, and I think what Suchi was talking about was it's not just that GPA matters, but even what sports activities that you do matter as well. So Michael, could you talk a little bit about how much one should focus on GPA and how much should the rest of the activities be focused on it as part of being quote unquote well-rounded from an admissions perspective?
Yes, absolutely. And it's also important to keep in mind every single university is a little different. So their admissions requirements might be different. It really depends what you're trying to pursue. Keep that in mind as well. But for undergrad, it's also different than it is for grad. For undergrad, they do want to see a much more, or at least the better undergraduate institutions want to see a much more well-rounded student. You as a student are bringing a cultural asset to the university, not just your academic, your mind, not just those assets. So they do want to see that you will also be active as part of the culture in the university as well. So if you have volunteer experience from college, which I did too, I also played basketball in college, in high school. And I had volunteer in my high school as well before I ever went to college, because for a couple of reasons. One, my GPA wasn't what I wanted it to be, but also I wanted to present that I wasn't just about a student. I'm also a person that's going to be representing them as a graduate one day. So they want to see the well-roundedness. However, the GPA can be a big factor as well, because it's the one thing it's a requirement. They do have minimum GPA requirements. So you do want to make sure your GPA is in line with the schools that you're targeting. So you want to be sure that you also have a decent GPA. Can extracurriculars help you if your GPA is not great? Of course. But if you have a great GPA, if you have extracurriculars as well, then you're even more noticeable as an applicant. when you get more to the graduate level, what you have done is not necessarily as much of a factor, depending on what kind of career you're pursuing. If you're going to med school, absolutely all the things you've done are going to make much more difference than if you're going to a business school. If you're going to a business school and you do have business experience, yes, of course, that makes you attractive. But if you don't and you have a great undergrad GPA, they might not even care that your undergrad is in psychology, but you're pursuing now an MBA. They see that you had a great GPA in psychology and you're interested now in diversifying by getting an MBA. So again, you're now a more diverse and intriguing applicant. So since it sounds like you're focusing on undergrad a little more, yes, the diversity helps, but a GPA makes a big difference as well. Some schools won't even look at you if your GPA is below a certain level. So it doesn't matter how many extracurriculars you have if your GPA is not up to par.
No, thanks for sharing that. The next question is actually two next questions, which I'm going to bundle together for Suchi. One is, could you share about the 529 college plans, and specifically in Texas, there's the Texas Promise Fund, and I don't know if there is another one where you kind of prepay for college. Maybe that's the same thing. So could you share a little about that, Suchi? And the second thing is, Anand asks about the Raise Me app. Is that beneficial for signing up for scholarships? So Suchi, maybe you could take those.
Yeah, sure. So Raise Me app is something that's new, that's come up where, for external scholarships, yes, if you want external scholarships, please go ahead and apply. It's just not Raise Me app. Any kind of an external, scholarships. I know that a lot of companies like Pepsi and the other companies do have opportunities that you can see on the papers for external scholarships. So do apply for all those scholarships. It's perfectly fine. And talking about the 529, funding for college, it is again, talking about the saving programs, I really don't know how to categorize it, right? Because I'm not a CPA, so I might say something that's not correct over here. But again, it is beneficial to go ahead and save using a 529 account. It is perfectly good. But again, if your the family income is not in that balance with that 529, then that's not going to help you. So it again depends upon where you are within that curve. Are you below the line, or above the line with your 529 savings? Because that's how the FAFSA will be looking at it, right? When you actually go ahead and put in your W-2, you would have to go ahead and say, okay, what are my other assets? You would have to put, do you have a 529 account? You do have to go ahead and provide that information. So it's going to be calculating it based on all the information that you're putting in over there. So it's not a blanket statement that I can say, yes, very well, it would benefit people because it's actually a saving. So you don't have to take an additional loan because you already have that 529. But sometimes that can also impact because you already have a 529. You may not get a better scholarship or a federal grant. You might get a federal, scholarship, but not a grant that, your student or your child may be eligible for. So there's pros and cons, again, depending upon where you are within that curve.
So I'm going to share a little bit about my experience with 529 plans. I'm not a financial advisor, so this is not an advice to anybody. All the disclaimers apply. But it is a saving vehicle. The way it's set up is, again, it differs depending on what 529 plan you choose. One of the things that you may want to look into the fine print is the ability to use those funds outside of where you plan them to be. So for example, you may have some plans that are only specific to Texas, which means that if your child decides to go to Colorado for college, maybe that savings would not be applied over there. Again, there's some plans that kind of restrict you doing that. The other things about transferability, sometimes you may over contribute to that plan, and there's still funds out there. Can those funds be used for education purposes or anything outside of that, right? There's a lot of fine prints within that, so not all 529 plans are created equal. So again, consult your financial advisor about the tax implications of this, and of course, read the fine print there. So, but I do agree with you, Suchi, that the having a 529 plan is a great savings vehicle, but it does have an impact on how your FAFSA applications is viewed at also. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
And let's see. The next one is about we talk about financial aid. Oh, maybe Niharika, you could talk about early admissions, early decisions. Does it help students? Does it hurt students? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I can give a little bit of like how I went about it personally. That being said, there was a question about SAT, ACT. As I mentioned before, it is good to start, like your freshman, sophomore, latest junior year, because that is when you get accumulative grades and like learning of whatever courses there are that will help you in your SAT and ACT. So definitely, if you are a science major, ACT is 110% recommended because it does have that science portion. But in terms of when do you start prepping for it, definitely sophomore, junior year, not before that. You can look into testing abilities, but specifically in order to take a test, sophomore, junior year um, would be the best time to take. So in terms of early application, as far as FAFSA goes, it opens on October 1st and it ends on February 1st, I believe. So it is like Ms. Rahman said, it is recommended that you fill it out as soon as possible. There are a lot of students who wait until October 1st comes in, immediately fill it out and send it. And it is much recommended because you can get a lot of money the sooner you apply. It's kind of like first come first serve basis. And of course, if you are eligible for grants, you will get it. But it also depends on where you are on the curve, as mentioned by Ms. Roman. In terms of college applications, they all open at various different times. There are some applications that open in September, there are some that open in November, some in December. So it all just depends on when your college starts. But I would definitely start thinking about making resumes kind of like as soon as your senior year starts, start accumulating service hours. I would definitely recommend accumulating service hours since your freshman year of high school. So by the time you're a senior, you have 100 hours or more to kind of show your universities, and as well as start filling out applications for the university as soon as possible. It is not as lengthy as graduate admissions, but there are different aspects to it. There's financial aspect, there's personal information aspect, your extracurricular aspect, there are grades, all that extra stuff. So start applying as soon as possible. Start looking at your major and universities that provide those majors and minors. um, Call up the university, seek more information, visit those universities, see if it fits your social platform, see if it makes you feel like home. Because at the end of the day, if you do plan on moving there, or that's where you will be spending the majority of your time, you want to make sure that it is a safe space for you to learn and grow at the same time. So it all just depends on where you're looking for, what your major is, when you started it, what all is in your resume, and how early you apply for it. Even with universities, although it is based on your GPA and your extracurricular activities, if you apply as soon as possible, um, you are eligible to get accepted sooner, because if they fill the X amount of spot that they have, they might not even consider the last 1159 um, applications submitted. So it is recommended that you complete everything as soon as possible to the best of your abilities in the best wording possible. And also some universities require essays. So it's a really good resource to kind of browse through and see what other people are writing, kind of read books on it, see your perspective on it, kind of discuss with your family members, peer review it, send it to your either parents or their friends, kind of see if you're missing anything, if some things that you say don't make sense. And then if you start early, you are more likely to get all whatever you're doing wrong early hand, so by the time application opens, you're completely ready to submit whatever you have.
Also,
Well,
going
That
off
makes
of
appreciate.
what Niharika said, to give you a more structured timeline, after your junior year is over, that summer is when college apps open for undergrad. So that's when you start looking into what the application is, or like, am I considering X, Y, and Z school? And then basically how it works is for Texas schools, there's an application called Apply Texas, and you can apply to basically all of Texas schools through that save couple. And there's a common app that you can apply to every other college. Texas is a little bit weird, but and then from there, some colleges require secondary applications, some colleges require interviews, some colleges have specific scholarships that they give out that you have to apply for. So for example, for UTD, they used to do a scholarship called Academic Excellence Scholarship. So you have to fill out the form for that separately if you want to be considered for that. And then you also want to start taking your SATs, ACTs after your junior year as well. So that summer, really sit down and study. I know it's hard. It gets kind of overwhelming to study during high school, like during classes. So if you take that summer and really focus and study, you can get in a solid SAT, ACT attempt right there. And then also kind of speaking on, I don't really remember applying to college anymore, but as far as applying to med school, since that's what I'm doing right now, you try to take your MCAT after your junior year of college. So it kind of follows the same timeline. You take your MCAT and then you apply for medical schools the summer before your senior year. So I started in May is when Texas med school apps open, and then June is when every other med school opens. So you start doing those and you submit them as soon as possible. And then you get secondary applications back, and then you submit those as soon as possible. And then you start doing interviews through November, December. So they're coming up, and then into January, February for some schools.
Thanks
And
for
while you're
that,
looking into
Megha and Niharika. I have another question, and this can maybe Shreyas can answer this one. For an international student, how can we get scholarships for college?
So for international students, the scholarships are very limited. But like while coming here, we have a scholarship which we can get based upon our GPA and our GRE score for the master students. And like if you are a certain range of a GRE, and if you have a good GPA, then you qualify for an in-state tuition. So that is like it makes your tuition fee into half. So you get that in your first year as soon as you come to the campus. But if you don't get it in UTD, the policy has changed. The policy is now fall to fall. So if you are coming for spring, you can't apply for a scholarship. So it's like you have to come for spring, and then you have to apply for a fall scholarship when you complete one semester. So it is fall to fall. And after a year, I was here, then I was able to apply for the scholarship again based upon my present GPA in the year in UTD for my 2 semesters, along with what extracurriculars I have. So there are two types of scholarships. One is Dean's Excellence Scholarship, and second is the Dean's Impact Scholarship. So in Excellence Scholarship, you need to have a 4.0. Like basically a 3.9 also gets in, but for a 4.0, it becomes really easy. And and yes, you have to write an essay. So in essay, you need to write why you need it, although you have a 4.0. So and Dean's Impact works like if you don't have a 4.0, if you have a 3.8 or 3.7, and you are very active in some extracurriculars, you can showcase that in your essay, and that lands you in a Dean's Excellence Scholarship. So apart from that, ISA also has some scholarships, which for the incoming students. So those scholarships can only be applied after they volunteer for ISA for a year. So they can't get a scholarship as soon as they come here. So they have to work for ISA or volunteer in some other events, and then they can write an essay about how ISA contributed to their soft skills, and how they have contributed towards ISA by sparing time of their own. So ISS gives out 3 scholarships, that is ISA scholarship, then IAN scholarship is Indian Alumni Network Scholarship, and there's a third scholarship called as Mahatma Gandhi Memorial Scholarship. So these 3 types of scholarships are applied to them after a year they serve here. So these are like bits and pieces of the scholarship that international students get. And there are like one more like technology ball scholarship, that is new scholarship which has come across in UTD, but there are like less candidate pool which get it, apart from the others which there are like I guess 200 students get a scholarship for the Dean's Excellence and Dean's Impact.
And one thing that Rajiv Kamath, our treasurer, also mentioned right now is that, hey, become a life member of IANT and you get 20% off UD admissions. So right there, I mean, that's a huge amount. So thanks, Rajiv, for recommending that. Hey, with that, I want to ask this question of Michael. How much should, seems like there are a lot of folks, parents pushing their kids to take AP credit classes in high school. How much does that really help in college admissions? And more importantly, from a focus perspective, how much should they be focusing on AP classes as opposed to extracurricular activities? So if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about that.
Sure. AP classes absolutely help at the college level. However, if you're not going to do well on the AP exam, then pursuing an AP class isn't really going to help you. It'll be better to take a non-AP class and get an A in that class than take an AP class and then not do well in the AP exam. So don't overwhelm yourself with too many, as a student, don't overwhelm yourself with too many AP courses if you're not going to be able to handle it and not be able to do well enough on the AP exam. The goal of doing well on the AP exam is not just to get better chances at college admissions. You could usually get college credit for AP classes as well. So you have to get—
that's 100% discount on that credit, right?
Exactly. And that's usually 3 credits. So yeah, that makes— I took AP classes in high school, which saved me time and money in college as well. But I also didn't take as many as I see some people taking now, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to handle that. I'd rather get an A in a regular non-AP class than maybe get a lower AP score, or maybe not even have passed the AP exam and then have wasted my time in a way. There's no way to it's very hard to do that over. Like you have to know that you're really going to be able to do well. So if you're the type of student that could handle 4 or 5 AP courses, go for it. It's great if you could do well. If you're not going to be able to, maybe do 2, maybe do 3. Think about, as a student, what you could handle. If there's a way that you can really assess that, fine. I just knew myself, if I was going to do AP physics, AP calculus, AP US history, AP, like I couldn't do all those and still do well enough to be able to pursue the college I wanted. So yeah, really keep that in mind. Yes, it's great if you're the kind of person who can do it, but if you can't, maybe do a couple AP classes. You'll look better than most students. You'll get a couple college credits done already. But and then you still do well in other classes.
Also,
This is cool. Hey, so I know we are kind of wrapping up over here, and just about 10 more minutes left. And I think Tara asked a question that I think I'm going to ask every single one of you, and would love for each one of you to kind of give your thoughts on this as we close up this session. I know that we're just about 10 minutes away from the top of the hour, so. Tara asked this question, which I think is very appropriate for all of you guys to answer in your own perspective. What advice would you give an incoming freshman? So I'm going to start off with Niharika. You want to talk a little bit about one piece of advice that you want to give an incoming freshman?
Yeah, so I was a freshman last year. So I'm a first semester sophomore at the moment. But something that you can look forward to as an incoming freshman is the lifestyle that you're going to get from the university, whether it's academically or culturally or otherwise. It's best if you can try to see what organizations that you might be interested in. There are various. Like for us, there are sorority fraternities, there is ISA, there is lettuce eating club, there's a chess club. So there are various different organizations that you can even look on the university website and kind of make your way across, like, where do you want to be, kind of start visualizing as to what you want from the university. At the end of the day, yes, university wants you, needs you. At the same time, you need that as well. They want to know what you can provide for them. So kind of just try to see where you stand at the university. Try to enjoy the first semester, first year at least, although you are taking basic classes in your major, not in your major. So this is the time where you kind of figure out your stand at the university. So just try to enjoy as much as possible. Also at the same time, it's very easy to kind of lose focus your first semester because you gain a lot of independence, and coming from an Indian community, our parents kind of have the tendency to kind of foster us, nurture us, and kind of keep us, enclosed. But university is where you kind of open up. So try to see where you can fit in, but at the same time, not lose focus of your purpose at the university. So kind of excel in your academics as well as extracurricular activities, and kind of just make it a fun
Good,
experience.
good piece of advice there. Thanks for that, Niharika. Megha, you want to go next? What one piece of advice would you give for an incoming freshman?
Wait, really quickly, I just want to go back to the AP question really quickly. Something that's my personal experience is I took AP biochem and physics, and it was a bad mistake because med schools want you to take them at a 4-year university, so you can't apply your scores. So I essentially wasted like $90 per exam times 3, 180 or $270 taking those AP exams, which I had to repeat those courses in college anyway. So if med school is something you're actually considering, like think about that when you're taking those AP exams, take it for the GPA boost and to like just learn, but maybe think twice about taking the exam because I ended up having to retake that in all that material again in a 4-year college setting. And the advice I give is to get involved, especially if you're going to UTD. Like a lot of people have this mentality that it's high school 2.0 and it's boring and you don't get the full college experience, but it is what you make of it. If you get involved, join a club, join a dance team, join a sorority, like Niharika said earlier too. If you get involved and make it your best, then that college experience comes along with it. If you just sit in your dorm or if you just sit at home and just study, you're not going to get the college experience. And ultimately, college is about growing as a person, developing life skills and developing like work skills. And you can only do that if you diversify your time in college.
And you're also paying a lot just to be at the university. Might as well use every single penny that you're investing in.
Thanks for that, Megha and Niharika. I'm going to ask the same question of Shreyas. What's one advice that you would give an incoming freshman?
I'll just have a piece of advice that get out of your comfort zone. So don't be restricted to what you are good at. Try something which challenges you, which pushes you every day that, I'm not good at this. I want to be the best at this, and then find something else. So you are like, as an international student, you always be with your family. You don't cook, you just eat, you don't wash your clothes. But when you come here, you have to be outside of your comfort zone, do all those things and study and network with people. So it's a challenge altogether. So find something which is not your comfort and do that and pursue and stay focused. Like, it's very easy to get distracted here. Once you be outside of your, like, outside your family cocoon, and you be with your friends, you tend to be distracted, you get bad company. So it's like how Niharika and Megha said, you spend a lot of money here, and you need to be focused and not go into the bad company, and have a goal set in your mind. Like, yes, you can enjoy, you have to be, not just keep studying, you have to be active all around, but stay focused and never get distracted and get out of your comfort zone. That's what I can.
That's interesting. That's a very good piece of advice. You sure you're going to explore yourself, no doubt, but definitely get out of your comfort zone and experiment safely. Thanks for that, Shreyas. Hey, Suchi, you want to go next?
Sure. Well, I was a freshman once, and you can only be freshman once, right? So please do make the best of it. Even if you're repeating schools or even if you're transferring schools, you're no longer a freshman. So I would, first piece of advice is enjoy, your college life, because, you have your first wings. So you're opening your wings to fly. However, rightly, as Shreyas, Megha, and Niharika said, you need to venture out of your comfort zone, but also know your limits. So please don't burn yourself out. because there's a high chance that you burn yourself out either with extracurricular activities or with your academics. So try to find the right balance so that you enjoy your your freshman year as well as the upcoming college that you have. So that would be my only piece of advice. Enjoy this. And with the pandemic and everything, I know with virtual schools, people not having the ability to socialize the way that the freshmen would do, it's a little difficult. But however, you have TikToks, you have, Snapchats and everything. So please do socialize and get to know your freshman class, get to make as many friends as you can, because the friendship that you make in your college is going to go lifelong, because they are going to be your backbone. They're going to be your secondary family. So please don't let this pandemic, discourage you. Please do go ahead and use all the available sources that you have to socialize and know your classmates.
Thanks for that, Suchi. And last but not least, Michael, there is a question from Taha about the life membership of India Association getting 20% discount with University of Dallas. So one more plug for that, and then of course, talk to us about what one piece of advice would you have for an incoming freshman?
Yes, the lifetime membership with IANT gets you 20% off tuition at the graduate level at University of Dallas, specifically with the Satish and Yasmin Gupta College of Business. So I don't believe it applies for undergrad.
Okay.
So keep that in mind. But yes, it's been many years since I've been a freshman, but I'd say the biggest thing is it's very easy to live in the moment when you're in university. You're young. It's 4 years of your life, but those 4 years of your life also impact the rest of your life. So trying to balance living in the moment and getting the most of what you can, but also thinking for the future more than perhaps you ever have before. So I know that sounds not so fun and a little bit scary, but it's important. And so get the most of what you can during that time, and you make sure that you're also going to be able to use that in the future. It's not people say, well, I learned this in high school, I never never used it again. Well, college is a little different. What you learn in college, you probably will use the rest of your life. So make the most of that time and think about the future as well.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Well, I mean, our 2 hours have gone very quickly. It's amazing that we covered so many topics, and I think there's a lot of Q&A that has come in with all of us here. So I really appreciate the efforts, not just by the attendees over here, but of course with Michael from University of Dallas, with Suchi from the high school and undergraduate counselor, Shreya from University of Dallas, Niharika with University of North Texas in Denton, and of course Megha from the University of Dallas as well. I think this has been a fantastic webinar. I know I learned a few things. It's been a long time since I was a freshman, so I'm sure you guys learned a lot as well. One more thing I want to talk to you guys about is, this webinar does not come together very easily. I do want to call out one of our IANT directors, Sujan Konga. He's the person behind all of this who makes it happen. So, unsung hero, if you will. And so I really appreciate his effort in putting this thing together. And of course, I want to thank everybody from the board of India Association and trustees who attended as well. Rajiv Kamath, of course, who's on the call with us today, that helped us, understand what IANT does. And of course, the big thing about being helpful to everybody. So, be safe in this pandemic. Don't party out or anything of that sort. We have a vaccine supposedly coming out sometime, but until that's out there, we all have to still be safe. Wear a mask, wear a mask, and become IANT members. Love your support so that we can continue bringing these kinds of webinars to you. And stay safe. We'll see you again the next time. Talk to you guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
Thank you.